Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm aware in rising to speak on activity within the justice portfolio that the justice sector is really a fundamental part of ensuring you have a fair and just society. Now, that may be seen as a given, but not all justice systems are built equal. In fact, what is incredibly important is that in terms of building a society where people have faith in their institutions, ensuring that your justice system is transparent, that it's accessible, and that it is representative, we must ensure that we're keeping a constant check on each and every one of those measures, because if people can't have faith in their institutions, then everything is under threat. I think we've seen examples, Mr. Chair, if I could be so bold, with the chaos that ensues if citizens no longer, for instance, feel faith in institutions like those who gather tax revenue. Now, this is another reason why, for instance, Mr. Speaker, Transparency International uses 12 data sources when assessing a country's level of corruption and relative corruption, and uses the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index as part of its measure. So, taking that into account and how fundamental it is to ensure that we have a transparent, accessible, robust justice system, how have we fared over the past year within a New Zealand context? I fear that if you survey across corrections, policing, courts and justice, that we have a system where people are feeling increasingly like they're unable to access the justice system that's meant to serve them. Where's the evidence of that? Well, it's pertinent that the Minister of Police has taken the chair, because we have seen a cut in the policing budget in real terms. In real terms, absolutely. They're having to absorb $300 million in most recent times into their baseline in terms of a cut, and that is having a tangible impact on the front line. And I know that my colleague will expand on that further. There's been a departure from the notion of community policing. Burglary resolution rates are at all-time low. But that's not just the only measure of an accessible justice system. If you, for instance, Mr. Speaker, are a small business owner and you have someone who breaches a contract with you as a small business and you're left out of pocket, how are you meant to seek redress on that matter other than through the ability to access our court system, our civil court regime? And if you're unable to do that in a cost-effective manner, what happens? As a small business, you cut your losses, you shrug your shoulders. Fundamentally, the rule of law in New Zealand requires that people are able to access the justice system to ensure that the law is upheld. So it's not just about criminal, it's also about those situations where if someone sees the cost is too high, they won't access our courts and the rule of law collapses. We have a situation now where our legal aid regime, you basically have to be on an income of $22,000 or less in order to access our legal aid regime, essentially. It is becoming increasingly less accessible. I know Louisa Wall will speak on this. But again, that feeds again into this growing problem we have where people have distance from their ability to access justice. That is something that should worry each and every one of us. But it expands right across the sector, not just contracts, but even the family court, the incredible role that it plays as a court of last resort when it comes to custody and property matters. Increasingly massive problems, particularly stemming from the reforms that this government put in place. Now, these may have been established with the very best intentions, the desire to keep accessing the court cost-effective by not having to use a lawyer, by using mediation process. But what have we seen as a result of those ill-planned reforms? People are making without notice applications to the court in order, A, to access a lawyer, B, to get to the court quickly. And as a result, we have an absolute backlog. We have an absolute backlog. The judiciary have been crying out, saying they're seeing constant failures, that people are coming to the courts representing themselves in unsafe situations. Disaster all round, and the government's response will review it in 2017. We have massive problems in the justice system that have to be addressed.
I call Khan Wiljit's